It's free agent time, and it's now time to reveal the PFF top 50 free agents. We're very early. There's going to be some releases. There's going to be some re-signings. But as of right now, the top 50 free agents heading in to the end of the season. Mike, you wrote the whole article on the site, so let's get to the top 50. Here we go, 41 through 50. Give me some names that, kind of stick out to you.
I think the one that sticks out right off the bat is Bradley Roby, the Broncos cornerback. He was part of the no-fly zone, but he was sort of the third wheel of the no-fly zone, shall we say. He was the nickel corner there when Aqib Talib and Chris Harris Jr. were healthy. Never really a starter, but he played well in that nickel role. They thought he was going to be good enough when he was going to become the starter this past season to get rid of Aqib Talib. Didn't work out that way. Wheels fell off. Allowed a passer rating well over 100 this past season. Catch rate over 65%. His worst season as a pro. So he could have been up, in the top 10 range if he would have, had what they thought they were going to get out of him. But ends up down here, but there's still some potential there, I'd say.
The interesting thing about free agent list is you have this mix sometimes of old players who might get one-year deals and some young players. So Cameron Wake still holding on at number 50, kind of a one-year deal kind of guy that can still get after the quarterback.
Right, like compare him to Dante Fowler right now. Wake had a much, much better season rushing the pass than Fowler, but Fowler not even 25 yet. You're going to probably bet on that potential as opposed to 37 years old down here. He might have one more in him.
Former top 5 pick Fowler. And then the two wide receivers are interesting to me, Cole Beasley and Tyrell Williams. Beasley's been a very good slot receiver for the Dallas Cowboys. Right system, you could probably get some production out of him. And Williams, a couple years removed from a 1,000-yard season. He's got very good speed. Again, I think if he gets a little bit more volume in a system, he could be a good deep threat.
Yeah, he was basically, him and Keenan Allen were almost too redundant when they were both on the field at the same time. Rivers would always go to Keenan Allen. Tyrell Williams, though, no slouch in his own right, like you said.
All right, let's go through 31 through 40, already starting right here at 31. Teddy Bridgewater. We had some trouble trying to figure out where exactly he needs to land on this list.
Yeah, so difficult to rank Teddy Bridgewater at this point. The preseason was so good this past year for the Jets. Had a grade over 80 in those 3 games. Good enough for the Saints, obviously traded the third rounder for him, but then he goes out in week 17, playing with backups, doesn't look nearly as good. So it's difficult to say how back he is, but I do think if you're a team like the Jaguars, a team that needs a starter right away, that's probably your guy that you're going to go after.
Take your shot.
Yeah.
Second year in a row that Teddy Bridgewater has hit free agency. We'll see what he commands at this point. Another interesting name is Anthony Barr at 33, the Vikings linebacker. He was an edge defender in college. They converted him to linebacker. He had one monster year, 2015, great PFF grade, but since that point, very inconsistent. Does he still have a future maybe rushing the passer a little bit?
That's the concern. 2015 is a lifetime ago as far as the NFL is concerned. He was our all-pro this year, but hasn't had a grade over 70 in coverage since. I think his best bet might be to move him back to the edge, let him rush the passer because that's where he's always excelled. I'm not sure, though, what you're going to get. Comparing him to guys like Zadarius Smith, and we'll see other edge rushers on this list, I'm not sure he's nearly as safe a bet as those guys.
Yeah, the edge class is loaded, as we will see. So big question marks for Anthony Barr. Zadarius Smith, a breakout season this year for the Ravens. They moved him around a little bit. That's why he's so high on the list. As we move on, now 21 through 30, we see we've got some aging corners, but we've got some edge defenders mixed in there. Who stands out in this list for you, Mike?
I think this is where we start seeing some tackles on this list, and Trent Brown's the name that stands out to me because I think a lot of people are going to be higher on him because he's gotten pumped up this year with, hasn't allowed that many sacks, playing with Tom Brady and Dante Scarnecchia, but he's not. If he goes somewhere else, he's not going to be playing with Tom Brady and Dante Scarnecchia. He's not going to have that sort of built-in advantage that a lot of guys have in New England playing with a quarterback that has a quick release. I think we're going to see him struggle a little bit more in pass protection if he does end up getting a big deal elsewhere.
He's really been in back-to-back favorable systems, playing right tackle for Kyle Shanahan with the San Francisco 49ers, and then, as you mentioned, with Brady and the Patriots. The other big name for us at PFF, a guy that's performed really well, is Bryce Callahan. Slot corners are very underappreciated, I think, in the NFL, but extremely valuable. He's been one of the better slot corners for 2 years running. That puts him at number 23. We didn't put him any higher because there's still question marks. It's not like he's had this extended run of good play, but I think a team looking for help in the slot could look at Callahan.
Yeah, Callahan's an interesting name because he played some outside corner this year, but was mainly in the slot, and not a lot of teams are willing to pay big money for that, but data keeps pointing to that has a lot of value. Guys that can come in on third down, get the job done in the slot, can change your defense. He won't command that much money, but that could be where the value is at the cornerback position in a pretty weak corner class.
Tyrann Mathieu, a guy that could play a little bit of slot, a little bit of safety.
Similar, yeah.
And so some versatility there. And Kareem Jackson, the same thing, coming off a career year where he moved to safety. So this could be Kareem Jackson, the safety, out on the open market rather than the cornerback who's been just okay throughout the majority of his career. Now getting into the top 20, here's where we start to see some really talented players. The first name to highlight is Le'Veon Bell, and I think everywhere else on free agent list, you're going to see Bell as the number 1 player, maybe the number 5 player. How does he end up at 12 here on our list?
Well, he ends up at 12, one, because of our valuation of running backs. We just don't see a running back in today's NFL being as valuable as you're going to see the top 10 list. It's going to be corners, edge, some safeties on that. But number 12, he comes in 2 reasons. I mean, he hasn't played football in a year as well. That's obviously going to be an issue. And the other thing was his last season had over 400 touches and was just his least effective season as a pro after his rookie year. Was not the same player he was, and he's had an ACL injury. You know, he's had some injuries, so it's not like he's in his prime at the moment. I think there is a little buyer beware with what you're going to get with Bell at this point.
Ndamukong Suh's been pretty safe name over the last few years on these free agent lists. He moves down a little bit to number 14 due to age, but still has a lot left in the tank there. Adrian Amos and LaMarcus Joyner, a couple interesting young safeties that can still add a little bit on the back end. They've graded extremely well in the PFF system. And then Jordan Hicks at 17, a guy to watch out for as a coverage linebacker when he is healthy. That's what probably slows him down just a
Yeah, I
touch.
was going to say, there's some injury concerns up and down this list. Hicks and Darrell Williams both have definite injury concerns. Hicks has only played about 1,000 snaps over the past 2 seasons, whereas Williams only has really 1 full season in our grading system at this point. It was great. I mean, he was one of the PFF's highest graded right tackles in the NFL back in 2017, but got injured week 1 this year, missed the whole season, only really started as a sophomore. Was the first time he, in the second year in the NFL, was the only time he ever started at right tackle for them. And so there is a little bit of issue there, but still he's the highest rated tackle on our free agency list here.
All right, let's get into the top 10. We'll reveal it quickly. Here it is. We'll go player by player, though. We've got a little breakdown on each guy, starting at number 10 with Ronald Darby. Again, when we get to this positional value thing, you look at the multiple years of grading. 2017, 79.9 grade during that Eagles Super Bowl run. Ronald Darby, when healthy, one of the better corners out there on the market.
Yeah, and he's only 25 years old at this point. You still think he has his best football. Could be ahead of him here. When he was healthy back in that 2017 stretch run, he was fantastic. A lot of completion percentage that season, around 50%. That's pretty much the benchmark for elite cornerback play, is about 50, and he was right at that. That's the kind of skill set you covet in free agency at the corner position. He has speed and the deep corner type ability.
Yeah, definitely could play some man coverage. So he's number 10, coming in at number 9, D Ford, and I think the grades tell the story. Where's the big question mark? Well, just this 1 year. This was it, 2018. Forget that little offsides. I know the AFC Championship, everybody wants to talk about that, but D Ford showed that he can rush the passer this last year, but it's about this next year. Is it going to be down here again or back up top?
That's the thing. It seemed like any sort of minor injury really just zapped his pass rushing prowess completely, as you see by these grades here. So it would blow my mind if he didn't play on the franchise tag next year, just because you got to make him prove it after this. You cannot, if you 40, 50 million guaranteed to a guy who has 1 season of production like this, you're just asking for trouble at that point.
There's a guy later on the list where the franchise tag did work. We'll get to him in a minute. Coming in at number 8, we got Frank Clark, another edge defender. This is the theme here from this free agent class. Guys that can rush the passer. Another guy that probably needs to go back to Seattle, needs to go back to his current team just because the Seahawks have really lost a ton as far as pass rushers go.
Yeah, Clark actually maybe the most consistent edge rusher of any of the players that are going to be seen in the top 10 here. He has 3 straight seasons with at least 50 pressures. He had all 16 games this past year. He got at least multiple pressures. So game in, game out, he is going to rush the passer. I think that's going to be coveted on the open market. But like you mentioned, Seahawks really had no one else this past season. They need him back.
All right, coming in next, we've got Landon Collins. He was a Defensive Player of the Year candidate a couple of years ago. The story of his career has just been when you put him in the right role, which is a free safety, a strong safety that's really good playing, downhill, close to the box, can cover tight ends, do a little bit in short zone coverage. When he does that, he's really good. He's just limited. You're not going to make him into a true free safety like you did early in his career where he struggled, but a solid overall skill set at safety.
Yeah, definitely a solid overall skill set. And I think you could even have value for someone looking for a nickel linebacker. He can play that sort of role, but like you mentioned, he's a box guy. He's going to be making plays around the line of scrimmage. That's what you want him to. If you're looking for a free safety, Not him. Yeah, other guys on this list in safety. It's a deep safety class, but in terms of the box role, he's as good as it gets in that role.
Put him in the right role. Landon Collins could have those top years like he did in 2016 and 17. And then we got Jadeveon Clowney coming in next, back to the edge defender group. And I know there's a lot of hype behind Jadeveon Clowney, but he hasn't been the freak pass rusher that maybe we expected when he was the #1 overall pick back in 2014.
Yeah, he's arguably the best run defending edge in the entire NFL at the moment, but as a pass rusher, he actually does his best work, had his best pass rushes on the interior. He does not win the edge terribly much. He's a power player, a lot of bull rushes. Not gonna be a guy that you're gonna want to go consistently out wide, trying to rush off the edge or the outside of tackles, but I think if you move him around as a chess piece, you can get a lot of value. But as we said, the pass rushing grade's still not there compared to the other edge rushers in this top 10.
Yeah, this 89.5 grade last year definitely more skewed toward run defense when he was our #2 graded edge against the run. All right, let's get to the top 4. Grady Jarrett, the defensive interior lineman for the Atlanta Falcons. A breakout season. Well, we could call it a breakout season. He continued to get better. We loved him coming out of the draft back in 2015, and he just showed that he could be disruptive against the run and as a pass rusher.
Yeah, I think you love to see this as a guy hitting free agency, getting better every single season, playing at his best right now, still young. There's going to be a lot of teams in the market for Jarrett for that sort of pass rushing ability because he was top 10 in run defense among interior players, top 10 in pass rushing among interior players. That's going to be coveted at a high level. He can play nose, he can play 3 technique.
That's what I like there.
A lot to like with Grady Jarrett.
Yeah, he's got the 3 technique size, but played all over that defensive front. And then here's this guy, Brandon Graham, who, always seems to grade well for us since dating back to 2010 when he entered the league. He's been with the Eagles ever since that day one of his career, but it looks like he's probably trying to hit the open market, take advantage of all these elite grades he's put up over the last few years.
I'm not sure the Eagles can even re-sign him with where they are cap-wise, but like you said, elite play, season after season, pass rushing, run defense, he can do it all. 30 years old now, so he's a little older, but I still think he's got 3 or 4 useful years left in terms of the way he wins as a pass rusher. Bull rush specialist, I think he is going to continue. For the life of the 3 or 4 year deal, he'll play through it well.
Yeah, power and good hands off the edge, and he's just never been a guy that just completes sacks, but he's so disruptive, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
Only 1 season above 10 sacks. But still very disruptive. And now Trey Flowers, another similar type of edge defender who wins not so much with great athleticism, but with technique, with strong hands. He's another guy that the Patriots have moved around the defensive front, and he was the class that Grady Jarrett was in. 2015 rookie, 4th round steal, Trey Flowers from the Patriots.
Yeah, the thing you mentioned there that really I think is going to be coveted in free agency is he moved all over that Patriots defensive front and played well. Pretty much any alignment you want him to play, whether it's out wide, over the tackle, inside the guards, he can play and play at a high level, run defense, rushing the passer. That basically can fit into any scheme, and so every team in the NFL could use them at Trey Flowers.
Excellent run defender and rushing the passer. Again, continuous improvement in Flowers' career. And now to our top 2. We debated Earl Thomas at the top of the list. I could see him being #1. When you talk about coverage value, what he brings on the back end, the best pure free safety of this generation with what he can do as a center fielder, but they're just concerned about him being 30 years old and coming off an injury.
That's about the only thing that I have a concern with. And even Earl Thomas sans a step, 1 step slower Earl Thomas is still probably an elite safety in the NFL. No real question marks for me. It's just how long is he going to want to play football for? Even if it's 2 or 3 years, I think that's about your useful life. That's all you can really expect out of any free agent, even if you're signing a guy who's 25 years old to a big contract. So I'd go get Earl Thomas if I'm in need of a safety this offseason.
The best part about him hitting the open market is the last few years, everybody's been trying to build the scheme like Seattle does, finding the next Earl Thomas. Well,
just get you Earl Thomas now.
He's on the open market, and there's a lot of teams running that scheme that would love to have him patrolling center field. But the guy that we put at #1 over Earl Thomas, we did debate it. It was DeMarcus Lawrence from the Dallas Cowboys. He's the guy that was franchised after an incredible 2017 season, because before that, he was D-Ford. There were question marks. He didn't play a ton, only a few seasons over 400 snaps. So on the franchise tag, he puts up an 89.5 PFF grade. Is that enough for teams to say, okay, he can do it, he's a new player, let's lock him up for a long-term deal?
That is enough, in my opinion. We've seen him do enough. In 2017, a lot of it did come against backup tackles. He beat up some really bad tackles, did not face nearly as many, but still, on par grade-wise. He is going to be an elite edge defender if you sign him for the next handful of seasons. I think he is a safe bet in this edge class. probably going to command the most money, but he's probably going to be worth it if he puts up these sort of grades.
So there you have it, the PFF top 50 free agents. The theme is defense, particularly edge defenders and safeties. If that's what your team needs, you are in good luck. So go check out the rest of our position rankings right here on the YouTube channel and let us know what you think of the PFF top 50 free agents.